Now.
Hello.
Okay, okay, here we go. Welcome everyone who's here in person and who's here remotely. We're calling the meeting to order at about 4:02 by that. And Janine, can you call the roll? This is David Reed.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. This
Roll
is
call.
Judy
Hello.
and this is Rima. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
David Reed.
Here.
Judy Monk,
Here.
Lisa Pappas.
Here.
Liz Wiseman.
Here.
This guy, Tim Redmond.
Here.
Janine LaPrade here. And Daryl Burkhardt.
Here.
Okay, and we have Chris.
Chris is here. And Barry, I expect it on the way. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda right now? And if so, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Judy and support by David? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Janine wrote the minutes. Thank you a lot. They were really well done. Any comments on the minutes, additions, corrections?
I have a question.
Yes,
Since neither Judy nor I were here at the previous meeting, should we abstain from them?
Yeah,
Voting on them, I
yeah,
think?
because you can't really that's true, good point.
Yeah.
You can't really comment on whether
Are we
they,
allowed to abstain, Judy?
I don't think we're allowed to abstain.
Because it's not a conflict of interest.
Right.
Right, okay.
okay, so you are voting on the correctness of something you haven't seen or something you,
Yes, otherwise we have to say why we're not voting, and then you'd have to agree that we have a conflict, and we really don't have a conflict.
Okay, so
you just, okay, we can go ahead. I don't think that's a big deal,
Yeah,
really.
it's-
It seems weird, but
It's just
It
the
is,
way,
it's state law.
okay.
Okay.
As I'm hearing no correction
On the
Okay.
minutes,
on the minutes. Yes, we've done the agenda.
there,
Yeah, go ahead.
not much of a question, but the order that the minutes were in, the motion to, I read about a half hour ago, and they just seemed out of order a little bit.
Based on,
Based on, the move to go into open session. Comments from the public, and then, it's nothing serious, but
Okay.
I'll get to you afterwards.
okay, so you want to talk to Janine. So if there's a material change, we need to make that
Yeah,
correction.
it isn't, I don't think it's material.
So one thing I'll note that might have been a little different. From past notes. Is that we spent more time with Barry explaining what was going to happen in closed session, including. Him naming what we might come back to open session to make a motion on. So I don't know, Tim, if that's what you're seeing, if prelude
Articulating. the
to
motion,
go
what you're
in,
saying.
right, that they weren't written up as motion, but it was Barry's articulation of what we were going to be covering in closed session. So that happened before we moved into closed session. And then we have the report out of the motions that were made after we returned from closed session.
There was new business, that's number 8. Then there was open session consultants report.
Right,
Then the summary of the closed session topics. And then public comments.
right.
And then closed session, and then open session adjournment. Should there not have been
Open session in the minutes had we voted on 3 recommendations.
right,
That's fine.
those are listed
Right,
in the open session.
Yes.
So, okay, I think I was looking for the move to go. The move from the closed
Close
session.
to the open.
Back into the open session, but that wouldn't be there.
Which, yeah, actually is part of the closed session. Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? And
I
I support,
second that.
and Tim is supporting, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? No opposed. We're on public comments. And we have one of our new board members here, Kathleen Brandt.
Hello, Kathleen Brandt, newly elected Scio Township trustee. I want to thank you folks for everything you've been doing. It's such a valuable cause to preserve land. I really am keen on the work you do. I also want to personally welcome David Reed back to the LPC. He had a prior stint, I don't know for how long, but I also want to talk about some of his qualifications that not all of you may know about. David has 22 acres under conservation with the Legacy Land Conservancy. He volunteered at that organization since 2009. I found all this online, so it's not like it was fed to me. The past 2 years, he's donated native prairie seeds to parks right off of his land in 2022 and also in 2023. And that was in excess of 5 pounds of seed. So honestly, I'm proud to have voted for David Reed as the most qualified candidate for the LPC. And yes, I did review the credentials of the other candidate, and I truly believe David Reed is the best representative for Scio Township, and that's how I intend to make decisions going forward. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kathleen.
And I ended up taking your spot when you resigned early before, so that's how I came in.
Chris, is there anyone?
Yes, we've got a couple, but we'll
Okay.
start with Pam Boyd.
Okay, Pam, hi.
Hi, Pam Boyd. I too want to welcome David because I remember listening to you at the previous LPC when you were on it before. And Judy, I wasn't at the last meeting, so I want to welcome you as well. I think both of you have really good qualifications, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how you all guys do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. And one more, Chris?
Yes, we also have Pat Stein.
And Pat Stein. Hi, Pat.
Hi there, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just calling in to welcome the new members and to wish you a good meeting, but also I have a suggestion. Is it possible to add the members of this commission to your agenda as part of the regular form?
You mean add the names in the roll call?
Absolutely,
Sure.
absolutely.
Yes.
Just, and actually just as part of the agenda, the date, the time, and the members of the commission, not
Yeah.
necessarily that they were present or not, but these are members. I know they're listed, well, they're not really listed on the website. There's some names missing, unless Will Weber is no longer part of the commission. I might have missed that part. But
Yeah,
it
he's
just
not.
says, okay, it says contact the chair, but then there's no name. So yeah, if you could make that a regular form, that would really be helpful. And thank you so much and great seeing you all.
Will do, Pam. Pat, thank you. Anybody else, Chris? You good?
Yeah, we've got Jonathan Grieber.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, I just thought I'd say hi and welcome you as well. I don't have any suggestions, but it hasn't prevented me from commenting before. So welcome all. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jonathan. That good, Chris?
It's so far. Good.
Okay,
I
Um,
wanna, I wanna welcome David and Julie as well, personally. and
we're gonna do it, but yes, and thank you. We're gonna really welcome, it's new business, it's new business, y'all.
Okay.
But we haven't forgotten to welcome you. We just have to have. And Jillian, we're in public comments. Do you have any public comments? Okay, all right, good deal. Okay, we're moving on from public comments to reports. Judy sent us her board report in writing, and it's right here. That's just one item this time that had to do with LPC. Tim also sent in his report for the Environmental Sustainability Task Force, and that was in our packet. Thank you, Tim, for doing that. Is there, do you know about, you probably don't know since yesterday about commission, do you? Or whether we're gonna have a report from them?
I don't know, the planning rep, we'll have to address that because in the past, trustee Reiser has been both.
Right,
And I think it'll be a question whether or not you want to have a written report from planning, because I don't represent planning, actually Kathleen does. But so you might ask her if she's prepared to do that, or how you want to handle that in the future.
do you want to report, I mean, what we're trying to do is get reports in writing, so we don't take up a lot of time talking about it, and people can review it ahead of time. Are you up for doing an extra report for us? I'd certainly welcome it.
Give you things that are relevant.
Yes.
to LPC.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is that okay? I'll just email you with everybody else next
I
month.
can give you.
Yeah, go ahead.
From the last meeting.
Sure.
Sloan Kingsley property, that you might be familiar with off of Baker Road. There's an organization called Many Hands that is, attempting to get a PUD on that property. They came before the planning commission, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. They are requesting, variance on their community waste system, and the planning commission, denied their request
Okay.
because of the variance.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just email you then for next time. Is that okay? Okay, and then on parks, we met yesterday, just about 24 hours ago, and I just have a couple of updates. Liberty Pond is gonna have they put cameras and signage in, they're working on signage, put cameras up yesterday to address loitering and littering and vehicle use of the trail.
Which pond?
This is Liberty Pond, it's out toward Parker.
Yeah.
An off-leash dog, so we're working on that. It gets a lot of use, but we need to have people, have the people, follow the rules. And then, Murphy, our Parks Director, has started a volunteer park monitor program, which is a super cool idea to just get volunteers to walk the parks every week so that we kind of have an idea of what's going on. And she has assigned all the parks to somebody. So she gets reports every week on that. And this is for Lisa. The Bluebird grant is gonna go into Liberty Pond also, maybe as many as 24 Bluebird boxes. She loves bluebirds. And,
Oh.
and do you? And, so they will be, Murphy will be asking for volunteers if anybody is interested in learning how to do that.
To put them in or to
To put them
monitor?
in,
Oh, okay.
and maybe to monitor as well. Both of those things, and that is the parks report.
And they got a grant from the Bluebird Society, right?
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
Right. Okay, so those are our committee reports. Any discussion or questions or anything like that in anything you read? Okay. Old business. This is Daryl. She's gonna go over our financial statements.
Okay, so for the November financial statements, there's really not any significant difference from a typical monthly statement where we basically have, we normally have like interest income, consultants expense, and cost allocation. You'll notice in this particular statement, there's not interest earnings or cost allocation, but that's because these reports get printed before all the adjusting journal entries have been posted. So it's nothing significant. I wanted to point out, because we covered this, I think, last time, but I wanted to point out to our new members on the balance sheet. I think it's pretty straightforward, except you will see a large amount due from state and deferred revenue that it's around $200,000 that balances each other. This is because we have been approved for a state grant for a particular property, but until we actually acquire that property, we don't get the right to that money. So accounting wanted to recognize the grant, but you can't recognize the revenue until the event occurs. And so there's these two journal entries that offset each other, just to keep you up to date on that. But the rest of it's pretty straightforward, I think.
Question? Did you ever hear back about your inquiry about the cost allocation?
Where that hasn't been, oh, I presented my position on
Yeah,
cost allocation, but I don't think it's been worked out yet. So it's,
Did we even get a response?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Jessica
yeah,
responded
yeah,
that she'll
respond.
handle it at the end of. the
Okay,
month.
but
yeah, yeah,
that's it, okay.
yeah. And when I do the budget, for our proposed budget, because of the position that I'm taking, I will not have any funds in that particular item.
Mhm.
But we're still in the budget process. I mean, we're not.
Yeah, it would just be nice to take a look at that.
No, and we will. I have full confidence that we will.
Daryl, in the balance sheet, there's an entry for delinquent taxes due from the county
Yeah,
for about $37,000, and another one just above it
okay.
for 21. So, are those more or less non-collectible accounts? Or do we expect to collect on them?
Well, first on when I talked to Ollie about this, my understanding is that probably the 37,000 or what's really 36,900 balance, and you'll notice up on taxes receivable of a negative 38. We suspect that there's an entry that may have been posted incorrectly, causing those two numbers to be so high, and they probably offset. But that's something that they will look into and eventually clean up. As far as-
something like an allowance for bad debts, right?
Well, for those two, that's just a journal entry that got posted in the wrong place. So if you offset those two, it comes down to like $1,000. So it's not a significant amount. These other amounts, what I understand is, yeah, they're delinquent. I'm not that familiar with tax collection. That was never something I had experience with. But I've noticed over time that sometimes those revenues come in, sometimes they don't. At some point, I suspect if they are not collectible, it'll have to be a bad difference.
Yeah, or they shouldn't be part of our assets.
Well, at some point, but how long they stay on the books, I don't know. That's not a decision I'm familiar with. And if you look at it, the amounts are not material. It's, maybe $3,000.
Yeah.
Over, 20 years, so.
Questions for Darren?
Not for Daryl, but, in one of the documents Barry gave to Judy and the new members, all the fire hose of information we got, there was a file called comp statements, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I have a question about that, and the comp statement goes all the way back to the beginning of the LPC, 2005, is it? No, 2009, whatever. Fine. So it's like 19 years worth of information. But I noticed in the revenue, I tried to add up the revenue minus the expenses and then carried forward through the 19 years. And I did that, and it's $2.5 million short. It's a deficit of $2.5 million, but if you look at the fund, we have credit of about $2.5 million. So it was a $5 million spread. Met with Ryan, and it turns out that statement is missing a lot of what I would call revenue, but apparently it's not looked on as revenue. The grants and funding from other sources other than tax. So I'm wondering, and I don't know, Barry, I don't remember asking for this. Barry, you may know, is that what we wanted? If we only wanted the income, the pure income from taxes, or is it, we just never got the extraneous income that we would get?
So
You know what I'm
that,
asking? Okay.
yes, I'm looking at that table now. And that table, comes from the audit.
Mhm.
So I don't have the fiscal year 24 numbers yet. They're probably around, I just haven't received them. So I will enter that, that data into this table when received, but the top part of that is revenue from the millage. And then other related, matters. It does not reflect, any grants that are received from state or federal or any other sources. And then the bottom part of it is the expenditures.
Mhm.
So, the state and federal grants that we get for conservation easement purchases do not, well, the federal grants definitely do not come through the township. The township is the applicant. The township signs an agreement to commit the funds. There's terminology saying that it's the township's grant. But the grant is for a particular property. And when we're ready to close, the money goes from the Natural Resources Conservation Service directly to the title company. It does not come through the township. I think the state money actually does still come through the township. We've only had a couple of those grants. So it's always been kind of a question about how to handle that. I mean, you Scio the grantee, well, yes, but do we actually receive the money? Well, no. So how do you account for that?
Well, it's interesting because it has been put into fund, well, it used to be 244, it's now 240 or 233, but it's actually in there as an entry. And so when I'm trying to tie the number, and I mean, obviously we have a fund balance and Ryan takes care of that.
Yeah.
So I was just looking at this and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, what's our grand total, our running total? And this sheet, we can't really derive a true running total compared to Fund 233 because we don't have all the numbers here.
Correct. And so what the other documents that you all have received and Daryl just reviewed covers that.
Mhm.
That's an accurate statement of what we have available to us
Mhm.
as we speak, which is $2.5 or $2.6 million
Mhm.
dollars. And that table, there's a few other items in I can't remember what it was now, probably in both sides of it, the revenues and expenditures,
Mhm.
that were either zero or were directly applicable to our operations.
Mhm.
And so I've excluded those. So it's a table of information, but it may not be complete in the sense of accounting for all the grants that we've received over the years, which is quite a lot.
Well, I was surprised, but now I understand it.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised.
Yeah,
Does that make sense to you? Are you asking, do you think it would be good to have a clarification of some sort or are you just looking?
Well, I don't want to go back 19 years and add in all the
No,
grants that we
definitely not.
received. But we do get the actual budget numbers. So, which is fine. That's what I really need. And I guess I question, do we need that comp statement? I mean, but Barry does a lot of work putting it together every year.
oh, it's not that much, actually.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's really cut and paste
Yeah,
the figures.
all right.
But, you know, and, you know,
I'm good.
I think there's value in that we know what the total amount of revenue has been over the course of the time,
Mhm.
19 years, it's $9.6 million.
Mhm.
And other, related income from the personal property tax and so forth, gets us over $10 million.
Sure.
And then we can see, where the money went in terms of my time or the attorney's time or the due diligence. So there's value in it. But it's not necessarily the be all end all.
Right.
But that's why we also have then the current financial statements that say what the balance is as we speak.
Right. understand.
Related to this question, I'm wondering about, do you have a running list or documentation somewhere of all of the grant funding, even if it's not accounted for in these reports in the way that David's inquiring about?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So another table that you all get,
Yep,
but only after we close another project. It's not something that I give you every month, because if it doesn't change, it's not really worth sharing with you.
okay.
But it's called the expenses summary. So it was all, provided to you the last time we closed something, which was a little while ago. But on that, there are several tabs at the bottom, one of which is the leverage tab.
Okay,
And that lists every project that we've spent any money on, whether it's our own or contributing to somebody else. And, the name of the grantor, the amount of funds that were leveraged from other sources, and then a column on which sources those were and how much they contributed. So for example, on the rents property, we got $2.487 million from other sources. Greenbelt put in 432, Parks put in 424, ASAP put in 868, State put in, and so forth. So it's all listed there. And then there's a cumulative total for all the different sources. So landowner discount, federal funds, Greenbelt, county parks, state trust fund, and state preservation fund trust fund. So there's a running total of how each one of those parties or those funders contributed to overall to
okay,
get us to the $12 million of funds leveraged.
got it. Great. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess I don't know what our collective role is in terms of evaluating the impact and the outcomes of, these funds that the taxpayers have contributed, and then how those funds have leveraged X, amount of money, but
Yep.
that is part of the story, right? In
Right on.
terms of the impact, so it's good to know where we have that data if we even wanna be utilizing it in further analysis and.
So one of the other tabs there is the values tab, which gives the value, the appraised value of the property or the rights that were purchased. And that's $20.7 million at this point. And of that, Scio's share has been $8.4 million, so it's 12, and so, a million from other sources. And so, to date, we have contributed to all of the projects that we've done, $20 million worth of real estate, 21 almost. Our share has been 41%. And so the amount leveraged from other sources compared to us is 1.5 outside dollars to 1 of ours.
Got it, right,
Which is good.
yeah, okay.
Is that something you can share with us?
I can do it again. I mean, this is
Again.
something that you all have seen, but the
Yeah.
last time I sent this
Yeah.
round was probably when the Rents project closed, which was
Okay, that's a while ago.
a while
so
ago.
That might be interesting for everyone to see
Yeah.
again. Thank you.
Yes.
Is that information that can be posted for public consumption?
Absolutely. And it
Yeah.
may be on the website now.
It's, I don't see anything like that on the,
Okay.
under LCP, under LPC, pardon me.
But that would be interesting for people to know. That's good information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. These are all projects that we've closed, and so
Mhm.
it's all public information.
It's-
There's, if it's not there, it certainly can be.
Mhm.
But I'll send that to you all here, so you have it fresh again.
Thanks, Greg.
That's called expensive summary, right?
Yeah, and you guys just got that.
Yeah.
That's included part of your pack, but I'll send it to everybody, once again.
Any other financial related questions?
It's sort of financial, and that is the millage is, originally was 0.5, but what's the Headley impact on that 0.5 now? What are we getting?
So it's going back 20 years, so it's been.
I know,
rolled
that's
back.
why I'm interested.
Although,
It was a renewal.
When you renewed,
It was
did you bring it
Renew
back
and
up?
restore, yeah.
It was
To
two-
restore?
2
We
years
did.
ago. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're at, and that was in 2022?
Yes,
Okay, and that was a restore.
yes.
Renew and
Okay,
restore.
renew and restore. Okay,
But-
so we're just down then a little bit then.
Yeah,
that's
that's why we
so
wanted
very
to do it
little.
then, yeah.
So we ran that 2 years before. I think this is the last.
Yeah, because
election.
it would have been 2024,
Correct.
but you did it early.
Yes, 2 years
Okay.
early. And so, if I remember correctly, the rollback continued on the last 2 years of the second 10 years,
Okay,
which we're just wrapping up now. And now it's either this collection or next winter's.
we'll be back to
tax
0.5.
bill. Back to 0.5 for
Okay.
that 1 year. That's my recollection.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, so
oh,
it's, so
okay.
this is the first year of the third
Back.
10 years of the latest renewal, and it's back to 0.5, and then it'll
Okay.
be rolled back, whatever, going for the forward.
And we're fortunate there was no Headley reduction in those 2 years. Because that 5 would have been rolled back before it was applied. So there was-
It still did. They
it
don't,
would have- Yeah, even though it wasn't in effect, it would have been,
it rolled back and then they bring it back.
so we're fortunate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on, our next item is Barry's consulting agreement. And, we're in open session discussing, do you all feel comfortable discussing with Barry here? Or do you want him to sit in one of the
It's up
chairs up
to
there? Yeah, I mean, it's.
Barry,
open
are you-
session, so- Yeah, do you mind just sitting out? there?
Sure, so, there was a draft contract provided a couple of days ago from Mariah Fink, the Township's General Counsel. I had some questions about it. She and I went back and forth a couple of times, had a phone call yesterday, and we've worked things out. She explained some things to me that I wasn't quite sure what they meant, and changed one thing. So we're in agreement at this
Was
point.
she? Jessica.
No, Mariah Fink, who's the Township's General Counsel.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, I think, gonna be on the board's agenda.
Well, I think it has to come from here.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
Well, actually, we'll clarify.
Yeah.
But I talked to Jessica about that yesterday, actually. So is it okay if Barry's with y'all, if Barry sits in here and we discuss, because let's just, or would you? Do you feel?
Comfortable?
Are you? Okay, good. So we have been kind of working on this for a while. And we are working on a collaborative relationship going forward with the board and with Barry in a way that keeps things moving in land preservation. So we're pretty happy to have this agreement in place. What I sent you last night is something that the board has agreed to and Mariah has drafted up. And Barry has looked it over and resolved his questions about it. And so I just want to throw it open for discussion with everybody and see what your thoughts are, what your questions are. I will preface this by saying I ran into Jessica yesterday when I was coming in for the parks meeting. And she said, well, land preservation motion to recommend is not required. I said, well, that's the first I've ever heard of that, because we've always done that since I've been on the Land Preservation Commission. She said, well, really, technically, it's not.
It's not required.
It's not required. The board can go ahead and vote on it. And she said it could be on the agenda. But I don't know, we can do whatever y'all want. We recommended it before and the board deferred it and we came up with this, or didn't act on it, I guess. Is that correct? The correct language? Or anyway,
No, it didn't
something.
even it did not even get on.
It
the-
didn't, okay.
Did not go.
And so, I guess I would be happy following up with another recommendation to the board. But if you all, apparently it's not required. So,
But I
anyway,
think we should do it.
okay, yeah, I'm
think
on
it
board with
hurts.
that. No. So discussion, thoughts, what do y'all think after looking this over? Any questions about what something means or?
I have one question.
Yes.
I mean, I'm fine with the contract, but on section 8, where I know township is trying to develop a database and files of all the activities that we've done. Will they include, Barry, will that include keeping track of communications with landowners? Because it just talks about documents here. Has there been any discussion with?
Daryl, for clarification, what do you mean by document, communications?
Well, you know, Barry, in order to bring a landowner to a point where they're ready to protect their land with conservation easements takes years of communication and interaction. And sometimes in the communications, there may be a concern expressed by the landowner about, they're concerned about da, 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 da. Or they may, for whatever reason, not want to move forward at this point in time. And that's something that is communicated to us in closed session. But we don't have a running record of that, so that if something ever happened to Barry, if we were to approach that landowner, we would start completely at zero again. And I know, like, for example, with fundraising or any other kind of activity where you're interacting with the client on a regular basis, you keep track of those communications. Is that something that we should be doing, or? It doesn't have to be in the contract.
Just to clarify, I think we do have written record because you write these things down as part of your closed session update. So you
For sure.
he has a record.
He has a record.
Right.
And you all do too, because you receive those.
Right, but to your
Not
point, it's not in a,
cumulative
it's not in a, like, you couldn't go into a database and say property owner XYZ. The 5 times there's been some touch point and what was the outcome of that? Is that what you're
Yeah,
getting at?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
More
So that if for
backup.
some reason something happened,
Mm.
a car accident or something, we wouldn't be in a position of going, gosh, we have no, you know, we kind of
This is where we are.
piecemeal know what Barry has communicated to the individual building. You don't have the history of it. Well, now maybe that's something, the question is, should we be having that? Or is that something that a landowner would feel uncomfortable with? Or if we should, will that be a part of our, the transfer of information to the township?
You're saying a more fleshed out record of,
No, it doesn't have to be more
There
fleshed
is.
out. It's just, we get it, everyone. And
Yeah.
unless we're posting that and tracking that ourselves over time, we really don't have a record of that, you know, but Barry does. I mean, he keeps track of that because that's an important part of his relationship with the landowner. But if something would happen to him, I mean, because he is representing us, if something were to happen to him, we would not have that record. Is that something we want to have? Or should
I'm
we-
curious, David, with Legacy Land Conservancy, which I was a volunteer for about 10 years, doing monitoring work, do they have a database and a way in which they're tracking landowner engagement and?
Well, they certainly have a database of all the monitoring data, but as far as the communication prior to actually donation, I assume that Diana and her predecessors have kept copies of letters and such communication back and forth about, because you obviously have to have the agreements, the negotiations that go on before the agreement is signed has to be documented somewhere.
Right.
Otherwise, the landowner can say, oh, no, I told you it was this much, but oh, here it is in writing. So I'm assuming they have that. That's not part of my purview into the legacy.
Sure.
You know, I'm just a steward.
Okay.
But presumably they have all of that.
Judy, may I address that? Yes, go ahead.
Any business that is done on behalf of the township consultants, that is a township record. And there are retention policies on township records. So are you doing it today? I don't know. But that is a township record that should be in the possession of the township. And so, yes, it should be kept and transferred to the township because it is a public record, right, on behalf of Scio Township.
Barry will be acting or as our consultant on behalf of, under the contract. And so, yes, it would be work product.
Right.
And yes, it should be.
So that's what my point is. It's not spelled out per se in section 8, but I think we need to be including that as a part of accumulating township records.
You're right, it's not, because it does say documents in here. Then, now, would it work then to a running compilation of the closed session reports gives a running record of communications? Is that the kind of thing that you think would be?
I would say it's not complete.
It's not good.
You know, I hear Daryl on this. Certainly the documents that I have provided previously, but also will provide pertinent to this paragraph include other written documents like letters, but it does not include emails, of which there can be a number, and spread out over a number of years. So it's a legitimate concern, I'm happy to discuss a way that we can. I mean, I don't know how to do that other than copying somebody else on it.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
mean-
not sure if somebody, well, does Liz want, 300 emails a month,
Well, I
you know?
think that's
How do you
when-
do that?
Yeah, I think when we get into a shared, I think you're right, we need to preserve them somehow.
Yeah.
The township wants these documents,
No, the FOIA needs to, the state requires,
they do, but not before it has to be confidential up until the,
no,
Purchase and sale agreement.
no, FOIA, records can be FOIA'd. And so you could just make it, I think it's being asked for every quarter, right? Aren't the records being asked in the contract
Yes, quarterly.
quarterly?
right?
Mhm.
So every quarter, he could just include those
On your thumb drive.
emails.
Can we talk about this another time?
Yeah.
I'm-
The
I'm totally open to it,
the
but-
point is not to resolve the
Yeah.
issue. The
Yeah.
point is to raise that
raise it.
this is something
It's a
we
good
need
point.
to
Yeah,
get a working arrangement
Yep.
done. on.
yes.
Okay.
And I know at the university, it may not be, at least there's a document of email sent on this date, follow up on this date. So there's a running track record of the process and the correspondence as just a summary, and then the backup documents could be later, but it's nice to know, oh yeah, positive response on this date. So you can just see a running.
Well,
tally.
I appreciate their process. The difference is that they're not open to open meetings act results. And that would be the difference between the university or private, is that they are not with the same kind of laws. But if you want to take that as an open issue, I mean. you
Yeah, I
can
think
do
we're
that.
having another meeting is what I believe, of how the logistics will work,
Okay.
how.
Yeah.
We will load documents onto a shared server or something like that, having training on that. I think that's coming up, is what
Okay.
I hear.
Right.
And
Okay.
so when that happens, that we can make this part of the
Okay.
discussion, because it's a good point.
Okay,
Yeah.
the one that I will make is one of the, I guess, commitments our board of trustees is trying to make is relative to good governance, transparency. I think everyone was on the ballot and trying to advocate for that. And one of the things that we're trying to also do is follow with public discussion, public presence of RFPs with consultants and getting into looking at all of our contracts and agreements. This one was far enough along that we know it's not one that can go out to RFP at this time because we were far enough into it before we got elected and sworn in. So what I would ask support is that the agreement, instead of being 2 years, I would ask that it be a 12-month or a 1-year agreement. So we can do what our township board is trying to accomplish across all organizations and all contracts, is we're trying to overlay good governance and transparency across the board and deal with either RFPs or RFQs or an evaluation. And so I have no issues at all. I thought the contract is really buttoned down. And in meeting with Barry through our orientation that David and I had, I felt it really aligned with what he was telling us and sharing with us. So it worked really well. It sounded good. And I would just ask for that 12-month versus 24-month.
Thank you for that, Judy. Did you have a comment, Dave? Okay.
I was just gonna say, isn't that something, was that something that the board would discuss at the board table? Or do we, I mean, does Barry have to be involved in that as well?
Well, Barry would have to, as a consultant, he would have to,
Yeah, we'd have to change the contract.
yeah, the contract.
So right
is-
now,
He would have to
yeah,
agree to it.
right. This is, so this is,
Yeah, just
Judy's
that's
thought,
it.
and I hear you on that. I think, you know, that we will roll this into the township's way of doing things when this, the term of this contract is over. Right now, this is what the township is, the board has come up with.
When you say the board is.
The board has not, no, Mariah has drafted, Jessica's looked it over. I think you have, and, I don't know, whoever was involved in that on the township side. And then Barry's looked it over too, and had his questions answered. So let's just talk about this document now and whether you all can support this, what questions you have.
Yeah, so, Judy, I appreciate what you're, trying to accomplish with the overall with the township and records and, you know, public transparency and all that stuff. So it's perhaps not the only, reason to look at this, at the term differently than 2 years. And so, I'm just, Barry, it's your contract, and are there advantages for the township in going to a 2-year contract over a 1-year contract?
Continuity. Yeah, I guess is a big one.
Which is a large part of why we want to continue
Yeah.
with you. Because of all the background work that you've done, so. You know, and because this is kind of a legacy piece that's been in the works for a long time. I think it's to the taxpayers' best interest to keep it as a 2-year contract. And I'm not doing that for Barry. I mean, I'm doing that because I think the background of information, the, you know, the blah, 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 the sunk assets that Barry represents and for the township in terms of who owns what and the land around the township and you know, what pieces are being available, blah, blah, blah. I think they're, you know, critical to this commission operating well.
I think his institutional knowledge is unequaled. I mean, no doubt about it. Being a new trustee and others coming on the board, there's a certain amount of due diligence that we owe constituents that I don't believe I've had time to do relative to some of those issues. And there, I actually spoke to Barry during our discussion about some of them that I want to vet some more. It does not mean at all that an RFP or RFQ is going to change that. It's just, at this point, I can only support a 12-month. And therefore, that's what I want to advocate for and support, and letting you know that that's what I could support. Because we've made a commitment to RFP processes. And RFP does not equal change. RFP equals vetting. RFP equals always asking ourselves, do we have the right process? Do we have the right people? And how are we spending our resources? And one of the big things that has changed over these 20 years is the number of staff people that we have. And anyone is welcome to walk through, Chris being one of our new hires in the last 2 years. We've had other new hires. We've got a Parks Department now, and we now have resources that we did not have 18 years ago. And those resources might in fact be ones that could complement what Barry is doing or what our consultant is doing and bring some of those activities inside.
Okay, yeah,
Not-
I hear you.
Not
Yeah,
to
that's good.
eliminate what
That's
he's
good
doing.
for a long-term view. Yeah, I appreciate
That's-
that. Thank you for sharing that. That's something that we need to keep in mind. I appreciate you saying that. I want to bring us back to this contract right here and ask if there are any other thoughts or questions among the members, and then ask if someone is ready to make a motion to recommend that the board approve this contract and enter into this contract with Barry. If you all would like to do that.
I didn't think we had to.
Well, we don't have to, Jessica said, but I think since we recommended a contract before, the commission would feel comfortable doing
I
that.
would make a motion that we move forward with the contract that we have today, and then it can be up for discussion with the Board of Trustees.
So we're making a recommendation that the board enter into
Yeah.
a contract with, this contract with Barry. Any other, is there support for that? Daryl, any other discussion?
Well, there's no, Judy, the last thing that you mentioned was possibly, using some of our staff, the township staff, to do some of the stuff that needs to be done, right? Is there any reason to revise the contract as written now to accommodate that possibility or that action?
Well, had we done it sooner, but we're this far in to it, my intent is not to disrupt this because that would set us back. And I think Liz is, the momentum is going forward on.
Yeah,
this
I'd like
one.
to move us forward, but I think your point is well taken and exactly right. And I think we need to incorporate that into our future, the way we're doing things.
And that's why I'm going with the support of a 12-month as
Right.
opposed to a
So
24-month.
Judy is not in favor of a 24-month term. She will, I'm guessing, vote to oppose this contract. But this contract calls for a 2-year term. And that's what we would be voting on if we vote to approve this today. So for this time, this contract would run from 2025, January 1 of next year through December 31st, 2027.
26.
26, right, correct. Yes, 26.
To Tim's point, that's the reason Judy wants a 12-month, so that we can put processes in place and figure out if in fact we can use staff inside to offset some of the cost of Barry and to, spread the effort out a little bit. Photo monitoring is
Okay. And
sometimes.
she can oppose it at the Board of Trustees, and you can have that discussion at that time, so we can move on.
Sure, and save the township a little money. I don't know about that.
That's what Board of Trustees are about
He's
too.
got plenty of work for you.
But
And he
maybe we
also
can minimize
doesn't charge
lawsuits
very
too.
much.
If we could stop.
I guess
the
just
lawsuits.
one, well, I also just feel like as a commissioner, I would love to be better informed about the staffing model and capacity associated with our roles and responsibilities as commissioners for this commission. So I would just ask that there's clarity and transparency in the review of staffing resources and some discussion with our commission about the overall work of this commission, our respective roles and responsibilities, any staff we want to bring in and what they're here to do and support the commission and this work in doing, and then how do we think about consultants in the mix? But it's a staffing
We're all
model
for that.
strategy.
We are all for more
conversation that I would like to
collaboration.
be part of, otherwise I continue to not be entirely clear about just what the commissioners are here to do relative to this entire process, and so
We are all for that.
we're a recommending body, so we are charged with, evaluating properties that are, for which we had an application. And scoring them and making recommendations to the board, or not making recommendations.
Yes, I
Yeah.
understand that,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of work that undergirds our
Yeah.
ability to do that. Who does that work, what their capabilities to do it, whether it's staff or consultants? I'm just asking that we
That's what we do.
have a fuller understanding of that and are in conversation with the elected officials about how to best do that. That's just all I'm asking for is clarity and transparency. So, okay,
That's,
that was just a comment. So we have, I've typed, we had a motion from Lisa from Pappas to move
And
forward
then we're in the discussion.
and a
on
second
that.
from Burkhart, right?
right,
And
Tim,
we're in discussion.
do you have another comment? If not, we'll go ahead.
I'm gonna make one comment.
Yeah.
I understand all the points that are being made. And I think it's important to get into a regular RFP process because it's objective and makes it clear to the citizens what's going on with this process. But I will say that when I look at all the different activities that Barry does, that based on my knowledge of staffing at this point in time, there is not the staff to do these jobs. Because so much of it, and I'm basing this on my experience with Larimer Land Trust, Larimer County Parks and Open Lands, where I used to work in conservation field. The landowner contact is a sensitive thing when you're dealing with land preservation, and all the activities that he's doing at this point in time involves landowner contact, even baseline inventories and monitoring conservation easements. Those are all contact points with the landowner. So at this point in time, and that maintains communication, it maintains goodwill. It spreads the information to other landowners. And at this point in time, when I looked at all of the tasks that Barry does, I didn't see at this point in time anything that would be allocated to staff. And I could be wrong because I don't have a full understanding of all of the staff, and it's not that staff isn't highly qualified for what they're doing, but it's the landowner contact point that becomes so critical. I mean, we've had, in Larimer County, you have landowners that will come to a closing in tears. Even though they're very pro-conservation easement, pro-land protection, they'll come to closings in tears because it's so hard for them to surrender an interest in their land. There are also landowners that if Larimer County staff ever showed up at their doors, would be greeted with a gun. So, there is a certain sensitivity to this that gets lost when you start to try to put it in a mechanical RFP process, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say.
Right, okay.
So
So
that's,
can I
Yeah.
add to your comment just quickly that I notice in the contract, Barry, that there's one rate for most of the work you do and another rate for the more the simpler tasks, which are probably the ones that the township would think about supplying. Though I don't know that, one's $120 an hour, one's $60 an hour. And I don't know if the township can do those kinds of tasks any more cheaply than $60 an hour. And the important ones, which are the ones that Daryl refers to, are the ones that are critical to have Barry on. And I think the 2-year term is, it's not 100% necessary, but I think it's definitely in the best interest of the township. That's all I'll say. Right
One of the benefits that I thought of was cost certainty, in that the contract specifies what the hourly rate for project work, acquisition work, like coming to meetings and doing landowners at 120 for next year and 125 for the following year. If it's a 1-year contract, then we're negotiating those terms as well.
And maybe
That
it's not
range.
mutually exclusive, like Judy, maybe, maybe in the future, the Parks and Recreation Director monitors the preserves, you know, it could be, and,
Wonder what she would say about that.
yeah, I mean, I
I don't know
don't,
what she would say.
I don't know, but I mean, it could still be done, you know, if there was capacity.
Somebody else could do the easement monitoring.
Mhm.
That's not a specialized task.
Mhm.
People have volunteered to do
Right,
these things.
right.
Um,
Yeah, and
And you learn how to do
Yeah.
it. And,
And-
you know, but
yeah.
there is benefit in having the person who negotiated the easements in the first place.
Yeah.
Still continue to meet with those landowners, or if the,
Yeah.
the Rents property that sold the Vestergaard. Can that relationship be established by Murphy or somebody else? Sure. But there is benefit in having that relationship with those landowners, whether it's the original grantor or somebody else. And it is $60 an hour, I mean, I think we ran the numbers one day, it's like $1,200 a year.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
monitoring
something
too,
like two grand.
it's the same as what Daryl said, you get in touch with the landowner, you send a letter, and then I think this is what you do, you send a letter and then you follow up with a phone call and say, I'm gonna be there on this day, is this okay with you? And that is also part of the whole relationship, and if, this or that person in the township is doing different, monitoring and getting in touch with people, that is it can be a bit fragmentary, I'm not saying it couldn't work, but it would have to be thought through,
Somebody else, a township employee did that for several years, a while ago. And then I got reassigned that work, and I went through those files. They weren't exactly complete. And that was the one time also we had an easement violation that ended up going to court. That ended up costing us, and we got a bunch of it, I don't know how much money we spent on it, but, we got some money back through the settlement. But
Didn't get the trees back though.
didn't get the
No.
trees back. And, would that have happened if I was still doing the monitoring? I'm gonna tell you that it wouldn't have happened. Because I had that relationship. And the other person didn't, so that's the risk you have
Mhm.
for a couple $1,000.
and you know what you look for, 'cause you.
And where to
doing
look
it.
and, all that stuff.
And what I
Anyway, so
said-
there's a motion on the table.
Okay,
What I said.
maybe we should move, I think we need to probably move on. Is that okay with everybody? Are you okay with holding a vote on this? You ready? We have a motion and a support from Daryl. All in favor of approving,
You probably need to
recommendation
do a
to
roll
board-
call vote.
sorry? A roll
Probably
call
need to do a
vote.
roll call vote.
Okay, sure. Can you do a roll call vote on this, Janine? All in favor of doing a roll call vote to approve a recommendation to the Board of Trustees that they enter into this contract in front of us with Barry Lonick.
Yes, I can do a roll call
So
vote.
you can just go around the table. Just go ahead and go.
Yes.
Yes.
LaPrade, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
No,
No,
You say no,
I
Dave.
said no, yeah, that would be one of when I ran for the board, one of the things I wanted to institute was RFPs for all consultants. And I don't have a problem with Barry, but I have a problem with the process. We haven't had a chance, the board, sorry, not me. The board hasn't had a chance to put the process in for RFPs. And this is a short-term issue. I mean, this is hopefully by the next March, April, May, the process will be in place. So in September, October, RFPs will go out for all the consultants, including Carlisle Wortman, including OHM. And we'll see, but
you know though that Jessica is the one that negotiated on behalf, this contract on behalf of the town.
no, Jessica does not negotiate.
But she's the one that put this together with Mariah.
She did initial troubleshooting. She did not negotiate.
Yeah, we don't have, a board of trustees does not have a contract negotiator.
Oh, I know that, yeah.
Okay, so that's all I just want to
Okay.
clarify. I mean,
Well, the communications indicated that, so.
okay,
Uh-huh.
no, I think the vote is,
Okay.
the
are
vote
we
is,
good?
vote, I'm good.
All right, so we have,
democratic process, all, I'm good with that.
okay, are we ready to move on?
So to make the recommendation
There,
then?
there were two,
Two
yes,
no's
well, there were
and
two,
five
there,
yeses.
yes, correct, and then, there were two opposed, and now, so it passed.
But the motion passed.
The motion passed, we will recommend it to the board. I guess we didn't need to do that, but we've had a good thorough discussion and we know, what to work on going forward. So back to our agenda, our next meeting is January 9th. Is there anyone here who knows that they will not be in attendance?
I won't be.
Tim will not be here, okay? Anyone else? Okay. So make a note of that, I guess, Janine. Thank you. And our new business, we're finally getting around to welcoming you all. to David. I know, well, new business comes later in the meeting, but welcome. Glad you're here. If anyone wants to stick around and talk with Dave, he was, formerly a member, so he knows a lot about what we do. And Judy, we're glad to have you here. You're gonna have a lot of workload with parks and this too.
Well, I will make a comment.
Yes.
I talked to Judy. I appreciate your attention to detail here in the interests of all the citizens. So, and that's good for this commission too. And I don't know much of your history and so on, but I'm glad to hear.
I'm committed to, open space, committed to rural. I love it. I come from a farm background. My mom still lives on our 1,000-acre property.
I've read that about it.
Yes, so it's near and dear to my heart.
Okay. So-
What I try to marry is the governmental side of this to my passion. And so that's what I really am trying to do, make sure good governance and transparency is inherent and just part of our passion, because I think it's probably a passion of everyone that is at this table. And so to make sure we're doing it with constituents in mind, as we've been elected to do, and you guys are doing a really great job of representing that. So it is, I have a distinct delight in all this farmland. And
You, like all of us,
Yeah.
want to be responsible to the
Yes.
citizens and taxpayers and.
my dad farmed for all my life, and
Which is-
he was a logger. And we have a lot of woods, and we sold logs, we sold the mines, and
And
Where
y'all,
was that?
in UP,
Oh, wow.
yes, and we have, I love the woods, so I'm good with all of this.
so you all, let's
I-
stay after and talk to Judy if you wanna. So we have.
I just,
Well, and
We-
to,
there are very
at
few
some point,
people-
Yeah.
let me just finish. There are very few people who have been on this board, I think, who've done what you've done,
Mm-hmm.
David, and actually conserve your property and given up your right to sell it and all that stuff. Not even sell it, but to develop it and so on. So I appreciate that about you. Wow.
Thank you. And you're all invited to the prairie burn we'll have in March.
Yeah, love to.
well, and I guess, Liz, I would just say that I think part of good governance is also good relationship building and maintenance. And so, yes, it does seem important that we get to know each other.
Right.
I appreciate deeply hearing all the affirmations of both of you being appointed, and that's great. And there's also, as you were learning, lots of commitment and talent and shared interest in making sure we're all working together on behalf of our fellow citizens and residents here in the town. So I hope we can find a way to do a little bit of relationship building and planning together at some point. I think that is part of what we're hoping to do at some juncture here. Not today,
Well,
but
right now, let's just go ahead with our agenda. I think, as far as Dave, if David and Judy, you can stay for a few minutes after, it might be fun to, talk. a little
I
more.
can't stay for a few minutes
Okay.
after, but I'm
Okay.
just saying,
I mean,
like,
I'm just
as
trying to
part
keep
of
us
the.
within our.
Sure, no, I understand.
parameters
I mean,
for-
so at some point we were talking about, is there a session where we're gonna do some planning, sure, some.
That's what we're hoping to do, yes.
Okay.
That's what we're
Great.
hoping to do. Cool. I am going to go on to Barry's open session consultants report.
Yeah, pretty brief, but we did orientation with Dave and Judy a couple of days ago. Spent some time here at the Township Hall chatting, and then we went out and drove around some properties. We applied, as you know, for the federal ASAP program in October. Haven't heard about that yet. The one application that we submitted for that. I think it's going to get funded, but if it doesn't, the next deadline is coming up a week from Friday. And I believe it would roll over to the next application deadline. I've asked that question, but I haven't got an answer to it yet. And I don't think we have any other properties to be submitted for December 20th. There'll be another deadline in February if we have something else come up between now and then. And then the State Ag Preservation Fund announced its schedule just a few days ago. The application round will open December 15th. And the due date's February 28th. We'll submit at least one property for that. The same one that were submitted for the federal application, actually. So that's the only update in the open session.
Well, you gave a pretty comprehensive orientation to Dave and Judy, right? The other
Well,
day.
there's a lot to learn. There's,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Dave's got a little head start, but
Yeah.
there's, 20 years of history here, so.
Yes.
But it was a good starting point, I think, anyway.
Yep. Nice drive through the township.
And Barry, would you like to summarize closed session topics?
Yeah. I mentioned that we have an ASAP appraisal or ASAP application for a property that we're waiting on. We, at the last meeting, recommended appraisals, and those are underway. And then the state fund application is forthcoming. We have another property for which we have state and federal grant awards for at this point. An agreement on the purchase price, and last month you all made a recommendation to the board to execute the purchase agreement. And the board did not act on that on December 3rd, but will address it on December 17th. I will be present for that meeting, either physically or over the airwaves. I hope that will succeed at that time and we can move forward with that easement purchase. A couple of properties that hasn't been a recent activity, but they're still under consideration. One that I have been trading phone calls with the landowner to talk to him about. Yeah, so no actions to come out of the closed session this time. And it should be pretty brief.
We would expect to return to open session and adjourn.
Correct.
Today.
Yeah, and I don't expect this to be terribly long.
Any questions for Barry in open session?
Well, with regard to the property that's being, that we had recommended approval for, do one of us need to be there when they take this up on their agenda?
I think one of us will be there. I don't think we have to be there, but yes, I think that's a good idea. Would you like to volunteer?
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, I know you'd be good if you want to.
I just think,
Yeah.
I think it's a courtesy. I mean,
Right,
we're
absolutely.
recommending a motion. It's nice
Agreed.
for one of us to be there to
Yes.
say, go team, right?
Yes, absolutely right.
Okay.
It will be in closed session. It'll be toward the end of the meeting. So, but the last meeting didn't.
It wasn't
Didn't
long
go
last time.
No, we get,
And that's good.
17th.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah.
At 7:00.
Tuesday at 7. I will plan on being there.
Thank you.
The agenda's probably on at this point, so
It
you can
is.
see where that is
So-
on the agenda.
I think it's going up this afternoon.
Public comments. Kathleen, nothing? Really?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right. Chris, anyone on, online to say anything to us?
Yep, we got Rob Pattinson.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, gang. Rob Pattinson, Scio Township resident. First of all, I need to disclose that I am extremely biased. but I did indeed appreciate the discussion today on Barry's contract. I understand trustee Monk's position about transparency and integrity, and that is critical, and I'm all for that. It's a little bit redundant in this particular case because I can't see anybody being able to compete with Barry in his ability to serve Scio Township. I remember in the last 3 or 4 years of the meetings I've attended on Zoom where he's described relationships that are 5 or 10 years old before conservation easements or other aspects of land preservation come up. And it's that personal relationship he has with the landowners in Scio that is critical to his ability to do the job. Also, I think there's only one score for Barry Lonick's performance for Scio Township in the last year, and that's a 10 out of 10. So yes, go ahead with a 12-month contract, but when it goes out to RFP, I just can't picture anybody being able to compete with Barry's ability to serve Scio. Also, at the beginning of the meeting, you talked about the sort of the running total of the last 20 years worth of land preservation. I would like to recommend that you put something on the website with those numbers. I was a bit surprised. I've watched Barry multiply township money by 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times with his ability to get grants and combine different funding sources. I'm a bit surprised that it all boils down to 1.5 times township money in all of the contracts that we've done over the last 20 years. But I would hope that you would put that document on the website so that residents can see just how successful we've been over the last 20 years, preserving a couple thousand acres and the work that's going forward. So that would be a suggestion for the website. Great meeting. I really appreciated the depth of the discussion. Well done.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks. You'll get something ready that we can put a link on our webpage to.
Yeah,
because
that he agreed to do that.
Yeah, right. That's important.
Yeah,
That
thanks,
would,
Rob.
I think Rob is right. A lot of people would appreciate that.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
No other hands are raised at the moment.
How many
Okay.
Zoomers do we have?
We've got 4.
Okay, we're ready to go into closed session then, and Janine, we need a
We need-
roll.
A motion to go into closed
We need a
session.
motion, we need a support, and we need a roll call vote on this.
Yeah, I move.
Tim, support, and Judy supporting?
And the specific. Needs to be
Yeah,
stated
oh,
at some
right,
point.
sorry.
There's
Tim.
a
Oh,
motion.
Tim,
I
I'm forgetting my own rules.
I
Can
was
you-
looking at it for it.
Can you read it, Tim?
Oh,
Thank you.
I move that we go into closed session for discussion of pending property evaluations pursuant to section 15.268D of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, specifically to consider the purchase or lease of real property up to the time and option to purchase or lease that real property is obtained.
We already have support from Judy, all in favor?
Aye.
Gotta
Opposed?
do voice.
Oh, yes,
Roll call.
oh, sorry, Janine.
Okay,
Aye.
Burkhart, LaPrade, aye.
Aye.
Tim, Redmond,
And I'm a yes.
yeah,
Lisa
Wiseman.
Pappas, yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, I guess we were all in favor. Okay, that motion passes. Now we are heading